Hello, Deborah with Preservation Publications and Preservation 2012 on YouTube. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about revolution in America. And for those of you that remember, I want to take you back to the 60s and give you a snapshot of what was happening then and compare it to what's happening now. At the height of the Vietnam War, many of our students and our youth were actively protesting against the war. But Richard Nixon, at the time, thought them little more than a nuisance. He believed that the true voice of America, the true attitude of America, could be found in its silent majority. And I think that he was right. I think that if we look through the eyes of our youth, we see new vision, and they are the first to recognize trouble when it comes our way, and they're the first to shout about it. And it would benefit us all to listen closely to what they have to say. But it wasn't until Walter Cronkite brought the war into the living rooms and kitchens of Middle America that it actually changed. When we were forced to hear about body counts and were forced to watch dead young men stream across our televisions while we were eating dinner, that's when it changed. Well, our youth are telling us that they can't find work. Our youth are telling us that tuition is too high. Our youth are telling us that they can't afford to live and have to move back in with their parents. Our youth are telling us that they're getting angry, and they're getting angry all around the world. It will take Middle America a long time to wake up to this, simply because we have nobody blasting it into our living rooms while we eat. We aren't clear on what's happening. We aren't clear on the collapsed economy. We're still listening to the powers that be telling us that it's all right, and are not paying attention to what's happening in our own lives. This leads me to talk to you about Dmitry Orlov. I have put a link up in my blog for you to go and watch his video. I tend to put a lot of stock in what he's saying for a couple of reasons. First, because he was young when he went through the fall of the Soviet Union, and second, because he lives in the United States. With that kind of a background, he can give us all a bird's eye view of what's happening here. He wrote The 5 Stages of Collapse, which is an essay, and in this video he'll discuss briefly what those 5 stages are and what you can expect to see from them. The only one that I want to touch on right now is political collapse. Prior to the fall of the Soviet Union, these are some of the things that were happening there. There was rampant political corruption. Politicians were failing to see what was happening in the country. They were using the savings of the people to prop up failing institutions. There was rampant debt. They were pumping a lot of money into the military to fight unwinnable wars. The politicians not only failed to see what was going on in the country, they worked very hard to preserve their own wealth and station. Now, if you look at the fall of Argentina, you'll see that the same things were occurring. They had rampant corruption, rampant debt. They were failing to see what was going on in the population and were trying to preserve their own wealth. Now, if you look at these two situations and apply it to what's happening in the United States, we could be called the USSR, or we could be called Argentina. It's happening here exactly as it happened there. Now, if you want to take this one step further and you want to understand how they survived all of this, they went through a process. I suggest you go to Dmitry Orlov's website and read the information that he has on how they survived this. Both Cuba and North Korea were dependent upon Russian oil, and both of them reacted completely differently to the sudden withdrawal of that oil from their economies. Cuba was told to plant food right where they live, grow food right where they live, and to eat food right where they live. And they did, and they survived, and they thrived. In North Korea, they did the opposite. They increased the military dictatorship and the military power. They put a stranglehold on the population and demanded food production and supply from the outside world and threatened the rest of us with nuclear annihilation if we didn't provide them with food. As a result, they're starving to death. The population is starving to death because they didn't handle the lack of oil very well. Now we can look at both pictures and make an educated guess as to what's going to happen in this country. Probably a little of both. If we stay on top of things and we take responsibility for ourselves and our families, we might make it just like Cuba did. If not, we'll go the way of North Korea, without a doubt. So if you have the opportunity, once again, check out my blog. Go to Orlov's website, watch his video, and let me know what you think about it. It's interesting stuff and a unique perspective on what's happening in the United States. Until next time, for our families, our neighbors, our friends, and our communities, preservation.